I remember telling my mom, telling my dad that I was accepted, and it was like a miracle for me. I knew that it's just God.
I hope for anything good, anything that God desires for me. Because I never planned to go to the United States, but here I am.
My hopes for the future is to be useful for God's glory. I want to be in the ministry. I realized that God, He gave me a second chance to live.
Welcome back to On the Ground with Samaritan's Purse, where we take you to the front lines and behind the scenes of our work around the world. I'm your host, Christy Graham, and the voices you just heard are Montreat College students, and they're originally from Ukraine. We've talked many times before on the podcast about what Samaritan's Purse is doing inside the country of Ukraine. And we'll link those episodes in our show notes. But today we want to talk about another way we are helping the country. Samaritan's Purse is sponsoring college students from the war-torn nation and providing them with quality education at North Carolina's Montreat College. I want you to hear firsthand from some of these students to really understand what this opportunity has meant to them and how God has worked in their lives. But first, I want you to hear what these students went through before arriving at Montreat College. One of our podcast correspondents went to Montreat's campus and talked to 3 of these students from Ukraine. He asked them what it was like when the war started over 2 years ago.
I woke up and I took my phone and I checked all the news. And my phone just was full of this information about full invasion. I was really scared.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
We started hearing shootings just in the valley of our village, which is very close to our house. I did not forget to take my Bible when the war was starting. We were in a rush, but I did not forget because I understood that this is important.
I was in Kiev. I was at home with my family. It was so confusing. We didn't really have any plans. I mean, we didn't know what to do. My family decided to go somewhere where it is safer, like a village or something. So we went there after a few days after the war started. But it was actually like so scary and confusing.
I can't imagine the pain and sadness these students are facing. Many of them have family living in Ukraine, and they worry about them and check in with them daily to make sure they're okay. But they were brought to Montreat College for a reason. Montreat is a special place. It's just a few hours from our international headquarters in North Carolina. And I want you to hear from the president of Montreat College, Dr. Paul Maurer. I love his heart, and he serves his students not just academically, but spiritually. For decades, Dr. Maurer has served in Christian higher education, and 10 years ago, Dr. Maurer was called by God to go to Montreat College. It's a small school in the mountains, but it's bold in its Christian values, staying true to its roots in a shifting landscape of higher education. Dr. Maurer shared how this partnership between Montreat College and Samaritan's Purse and how the Lord has led and directed this program. Franklin Graham, my father-in-law, had an idea.
Franklin asked me, do you have Ukrainian students? And can you recruit Ukrainian students? We have a lot of relationships in Ukraine. And frankly, I knew what he was asking, and I couldn't pay their full freight of tuition. We're not a wealthy college. And I knew that the Ukrainian students couldn't pay much, if anything, coming from Ukraine or as refugees. And so he said, I'd like to help establish a way for Ukrainian nationals and refugees to come to Montreat College. And long story short, we now have 11 students from Ukraine on our campus. And we have absolutely delighted in having them on campus, and they have added such a wonderful dynamic to our campus life, to the classroom, to chapels, to just campus life in general. And so that's really, it was born out of a conversation with Franklin. It was his idea. And frankly, it was his decision of generosity that was able to make this become reality.
And yes, I love this. Again, God stirred in his heart. He didn't know how or what or, the specifics, but we have talked with all the students that have come through, and they are blown away and blessed by the Christian education they've received. And actually, many of them have said, the professors have taken me in like family. It's a small, everyone knows everyone. And you mentioned, they have blessed and encouraged your campus, I think changed things, but their lives have been changed as well. And I know student leadership's important to you. You've written a book, you speak and teach on leadership. You love to pour into the leaders of the next generation. So what has it been like to pour into leaders that, we don't know what God has for them, if they're going to go back to their home country and lead, hopefully many will take what they've learned with them. But what has it been like for you personally, but also for Montreat, to pour into godly leaders?
Yeah, it's been marvelous. We have about 7 or 8% of our student body that are international. So the Ukrainian students have joined an already robust international group of students here. We literally have students from all over the world that have stayed at Montreat for many, many decades, and we have that happening today as well. So they have come and joined an already existing international community on our campus, but they have clearly enriched it. And they have done so in part because they've come as a group, and they really are. It's been so interesting to see them on campus because they are both a group on campus, and they clearly love the fellowship they have with each other and the support and the camaraderie that exists between that entire group. And I see them together sometimes on campus, but I also see them with other people and other individuals and other groups as well. So they don't isolate themselves, but they really have taken advantage of the common circumstance of their being at Montreat College. And so some are involved with, their hobbies or their athletics. We have one student who has helped us with some of our photography, building our photographic base on campus. We've got another student on the soccer team. They attend, they've actually led in worship and chapel. They are ministering to Ukrainian families in the area. I mean, they've made their mark very quickly, and they are seen as absolutely some of our best students and citizens on campus.
I know. I love that. I love that. Yeah. And a lot of them, they didn't know each other prior, but like you said, as a group, they have that commonality. And since many have friends and family back in Ukraine, it's this tension of enjoying and being thankful for where they are, but grieving and, missing those that are in harm's way. And so they formed a bond because only they can understand what that's like. But I do like how you said they have assimilated into the community, and they've all, I think, given back and received so much. So, and so I love that partnership, like you said. But I also love, again, God goes before us and he sees and knows. And, Montreat College is known for their Center of Cybersecurity in Ukraine. Cybersecurity is very important in their country. So there are many students that have come with that interest and that skill set. And so I just love the way that God partners and prepares in advance. So I guess, how have you seen, and you've kind of mentioned and alluded to it too, but I want to give you more time to elaborate, how he has exceeded our dreams and desires. We have plans, but he has gone above that. So can you speak to that?
Yeah. When you work on a college campus, you have an opportunity to see an 18 to 22-year-old change. They grow up. They blossom. They begin to own their own faith. There's a difference between the faith of a high school student and the faith of an adult. High school student is not an adult. And a high school student is generally, their faith is not rooted quite yet in a full ownership of that faith because they haven't made any real life decisions. It's when they get to college that they begin to make life decisions for the first time. Who are my friends? What do I believe? Who am I? What do I want to become? Am I going to follow Christ or not? I know my parents did. I know what my youth pastor said. I know what my pastor says. But what do I believe? And so there's a tremendous amount of life development, of young adult development and maturity that happens on a college campus. And we see a number of students whose faith becomes their own. They own it. I don't know the individual journeys of our Ukrainian students, but I've heard some of them speak to their journeys and to their faith. And if they are growing here intellectually and they're Christ followers, they're almost certainly growing spiritually as well, because that's the culture that we have built here, that we have here. And so the coaches, the faculty, the staff that we hire here are hired with the idea that they are a good fit for the culture that we seek to present and offer to our students. Culture matters. And so I think our Ukrainian students are drinking deeply of that culture, the relationships, the intellectual development, the career development, the self-development. And part of what the college years do is allow people to understand who they are and what they're good at. What has God gifted me uniquely, and how do I use that for his glory? And we are the bridge to independence. The college years are bridge years. They go from full dependence with your parents to full independence as an adult. And these years are so crucial in terms of all those elements of what it means to become a Christ follower, a professional, a citizen, an adult, a husband, a parent, etc.
You're making me teary because I have a high schooler, a junior in high school. And as we think and pray and, just think about what's next for her, I love how you said that. We are bridge years. And that's when I, made Jesus Lord of my life and made my faith my own. And it is such a pivotal role or time in their life. And these Ukrainian students are coming from such hardship and trauma, leaving their home country. And as I mentioned, they're excited and happy to be where they are, but they're grieving, for their family and friends that are back home. And so what excites you about this new generation, and what are you seeing God do and move in these young lives?
There are three things, and one of them is that they love authenticity. They can smell a fake, and that's really, really good. There's a lot of false narrative in our culture. The world is filled with lies and deceptions. The evil one wants to devour. And so their nose for authenticity, their ear, their eye for authenticity is real. I think that also has led many in Gen Z and the alphas coming up after Gen Z to want to make a difference with their lives. And so the few colleges left in America, like Montreat, that really say, God has a purpose for your life. We're a good fit for those students because they want answers to that question. How do I make a difference with my lives? And we actually have answers to that question, not in the details, but in the guidance. And three is that Scripture is clear that God raises leaders in every generation and in every time. And so some of the most unlikely people in church history became some of the most significant leaders and servants in church history. I mean, you think about Augustine and the Apostle Paul. I mean, who the Apostle Paul was not like on a pathway to become a Christian leader. He persecuted Christians. He killed Christians. He was the chief Pharisee. And so when I speak to our student body, I cannot help but to wonder which of them God will raise up for his work in both very ordinary ways and very, very extraordinary ways.
Dr. Maurer truly cares about these students' lives and ultimately that they would live out their faith. And I love how he touched on the fact that college isn't just a time for education and getting a degree. It's about life development. These truly are formative years where students decide what they believe, who they are, And I'm thankful that these Ukrainian students get to grow in this Christian environment with professors and staff pouring into them with truth. It was a joy to sit down with one of these students, Nick, and he was an intern this summer at Samaritan's Purse, and he's studying visual communication and experience design at Montreat College.
I don't think I would have opportunity to go to college without scholarship. I'm grateful with what I have and this opportunity to study in Montreat College and to be an intern in Samaritan's Purse. I think this opportunity will change our lives greatly because without education and with education, it's a big difference. Especially after college, we would have more opportunities. All the Ukrainian students in Montreat College and also interns. It's an open door for many things after.
And can you tell me what it's been like? I know you're an intern here at Samaritan's Purse. What do you do, and what, I guess, has the Lord taught you being here this summer?
Yeah, this summer I'm interning with Operation Christmas Child International in the global programs team. My team develops e-learning materials for volunteers and for staff all around the world. And it's been great working with my team and getting to know them. I learned some technical skills, and also I learned more how to communicate in a team, how to be a good co-worker. Yeah. And our intern group is awesome. We have a lot of good people here, and almost each evening we have something to do together. Yeah, it's good to serve together.
And what has God done in your life spiritually, being here at Samaritan's Purse? How have you seen his faithfulness or the way he's answered prayers or worked in your life?
I met a lot of people who are good examples of walking with Christ and starting the day with devotions. Also definitely helps a lot to start the day with praying to God. And it makes my mind focused on God and whatever I do through the day.
I'm thankful that Nick not only has godly leaders and fellow students pouring into him at Montreat, but also Samaritan's Purse this past summer. Now I want you to hear from these 3 Ukrainian students again about what they're studying and their hopes for the future.
My hopes for the future is to be useful for God's glory. I want to be in a ministry. I realized that God, he gave me a second chance to live and to be useful for people around me.
For sure.
And to show that he is still working in our lives, you know. For a long time, after 2018, I was struggling with some kind of depression because of my physical problems. I had like 2 strokes, as I have said, and I just saw that people, they were noticing like my disability, and I still have some problems. And for me, it was so difficult to like go in front of other people to talk to them, and I was afraid that they will notice something or they will feel like pity to me, you know. So, and when I came here, I think after the first semester, God made me free of this fear. And I'm not afraid to say that I have disability. I have some physical problems, and it's okay. I mean, God still can use me, and I'm so thankful for that. So my first major is physical therapy and occupational therapy, and but because I had my own physical problems, like I had a couple surgeries and disability as a result, I just realized after my internship in Belgium that I cannot be as useful in physical therapy because I still have some physical problems. And I was afraid that I will not be useful. I was really like terrified about this. And then I decided to switch to psychology because I saw when I worked with people with disability that they have, yes, they have like physical problems, but they have spiritual problems that are also very important too. They need help, like they need heal, like spiritual heal.
One semester ago, I decided to change my major to data analytics, but I kept cybersecurity as a minor. So also I'm very happy that Montreat College just makes it very clear that you can easily change your major. One thing I've learned when the war started, life is unpredictable. Life is unpredictable, therefore, of course, you can make your plans for the life, but always be open to new opportunities. Talking about my future plans, I hope for anything good, anything that God desires for me. Because I never planned to go to the United States, but here I am.
I believe it is all God's plan for my life to be here and to study at Montreat College. Before, I just gave my life to God, and I wanted God's will to be fulfilled in my life. So when I was in the last year of my school in Ukraine, I just asked God, if it's God's will, let me study somewhere like in the US, because it was really my dream. And so I believe God led me here and God allowed me to be here. So I'm so thankful to God. I remember telling my dad that I was accepted, and it was like a miracle for me. I knew that it's just God.
I'm confident that the Lord is going to use these students from Ukraine for His glory. He is raising up this next generation of student leaders. Dr. Maurer told me how we can partner in prayer for Montreat College this school year.
I would just ask you and your listeners to pray that we would continue to be trust builders, that we would build relationships, and that we be rooted in Christ's humility. We want to be one of the best colleges in the country, and we work hard every day to be great in that way. But we know that greatness is rooted in servanthood, and greatness is rooted in humility. And so we do want to be great, and we seek greatness, but we seek it hopefully, prayerfully, in a spirit of Christ and the spirit of biblical humility, and that we would be encouraged and encourage one another and protected from ourselves, frankly, because when you gather a lot of really capable, smart people, pride has a way of creeping in very quickly. And so that would be my kind of where we always want to grow and my prayer request.
I love this program so much. As Dr. Maurer said, this is such a pivotal time in these men and women's lives. They're making their faith their own. They're discerning what God has for them, and they get to do it in a safe and loving environment. I truly look forward to what God has in store for them. And when I was in college, I played soccer at Liberty, and we would share Jeremiah 29:11 with teams that we played with often, and we would pray with them and just talk about how God has a hope and a future for their lives. And this passage came to mind because I think it applies to these students so much. And in Jeremiah 29, God is talking to the Israelites who had been deported from Jerusalem to Babylon. They were no longer living in their homeland, and they didn't have the comforts of home. And God was telling them to build houses, to plant gardens, to pursue the well-being of the city that He had deported them to. And He also said, pray to the Lord on its behalf. When it thrives, you will thrive. And so basically He was telling the Israelites, you do not live in Jerusalem. You are not at home, but become at home where you are. Bloom where you're planted. Immerse yourself in this new land. You will be here for a while. And eventually, He would restore them and bring them back home to their homeland that He had deported them from, but it wouldn't be for 70 years. So they needed to get comfortable where they were. And I feel like that's so much about these students. They don't know how long they're going to be here in America. Studying obviously for a couple years, but beyond that, they don't know what God has for them. But for now, they are to get to know Him, to thrive where they are, and that's what they're doing. And then I love this promise. In Jeremiah 29:11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. You will call to me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with your whole heart. I will be found by you. And so that is my prayer for these students in Ukraine. As they're not in their homeland, sometimes they probably feel like foreigners or exiles. It is different here in America for sure. And they are thriving and they're growing and they're learning. But I know there's a tension that they're living with, missing their homeland, grieving their country and their friends and family. Many have friends that are fighting in the war. One has lost a family member. And so their heart is ripped apart right now. They're very torn and divided. And they live with a tension that we will never understand. But I'm grateful that they have this opportunity. They're thriving in it, and they're embracing what God has for them. And they want to honor Him with their lives, whatever He asks them to do after college. So please be praying for these young students. Thank you so much for listening this week. And again, as all kids, K through college, are going back to school right now, be praying for this next generation as they learn and are challenged this semester. God bless you. Thanks for listening.